Excitement was in the air at Central State University as participants gathered for the 9th Annual National Urban Education Conference, a meeting dedicated to helping educators and students in the nation's center cities. The theme of this year's conference was Ways of Becoming Culturally Relevant in the 21st Century. Educators from around the country met to examine the challenges the 21st century is bringing to urban schools and to craft solutions for the future, at a time when many believe urban schools are at a crossroads.
This is the 9th year of the Institute of Urban Education, our national conference, and we call it national because we really proved that we have people from all over the country. This year, the number of people that we have, the places they've come from, and the increase in the number of universities that are supporting this effort, it's astounding.
Under the leader of Dr. Kay Jeter, we began to develop various programs and activities for the Institute. And one thing that she was committed to, she says, we need to have an annual conference every year. And we should be partnering with institutions in our community that also do education. And the natural was, quite frankly, Cedarville University, because Cedarville has a college of education, they train teachers, and she felt that we could partner with Cedarville, which we have been doing now for how many years. So as a result of her inspiration and her hard work, we now have what is now the 9th Annual Urban Education Conference.
I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today, David Livermore. We met about 3 years ago in Germany at a teachers conference. And he was there talking about culture. And I thought, he's got such a different angle on this that I've ever heard before. And I thought, I'm going to read his book, and I'm going to see if it will work in my teaching urban education class. And I introduced it a couple years ago, and it's been a favorite of my students. They have said it has changed their whole perspective on culture and how to deal with culture.
Dr. David Livermore addressed many of the same questions with a closely related perspective. His book, Leading with Cultural Intelligence, was a bestseller among business books in 2010. Dr. Livermore believes successful leadership is a multicultural challenge in the global marketplace, in today's diverse workforce, and in today's urban classrooms.
We surveyed 25,000 people around the world and found who were the ones who were most effective working across cultures. There were 4 consistent capabilities. 1, they had high CQ drive. They were very interested and motivated in different cultures. 2, they had high CQ knowledge. They understood different cultures. 3, they had high CQ strategies, so they could take their knowledge and apply it to the classroom, do lesson planning. And finally, they had high CQ action. They could actually behave in a way that was both effective and respectful. It's hard to say which one is most important, because part of what it found is that you need all 4, but I'd say the first place to begin is with the CQ drive, because if I'm not motivated to do this, then there's not much point in getting all the knowledge about different cultures, because it becomes fatiguing, and without the drive, it's unlikely that I'll persist through some of the hard work. Increasingly, I think in the US, we better look at how are we preparing our students to be competitive, to be effective, to be respectful, both globally and with the growing diversity here in our own country.
The keynote speaker for the conference, Dr. Ed Dunkelblau, is a clinical psychologist and nationally known authority on social emotional intelligence, which is an important factor in learning. He is a consultant who helps Fortune 500 companies use social emotional literacy in the workplace. Dr. Dunkelblau's Institute for Emotionally Intelligent Learning focuses on what he terms problem solving with the heart. As educators and students develop their emotional intelligence, Dunkelblau says they gain a better understanding of how emotion affects the choices they make and their approaches to life.
Each of us in this room has our story. Each of us in this room has a culturally relevant experience that's important to be aware of and to tap into, because that's what's going to give you that CQ motivation. That's what's going to tune you into what's important. Social emotional skills, in part, can be culture bound. That things that in a white suburban school might be perceived as natural social emotional competence, like eye contact, may not be a natural part of someone from another culture, whether it's African American or Asian or anyone of any other. So it's really important as we think about teaching social emotional skills to think about what skills we're teaching, how we're teaching it, and in what context we're teaching it, and just not make assumptions that everybody requires exactly the same way of doing social skills in the same manner, in the same context.
This year, there were 38 afternoon breakout sessions on a variety of topics. Civic leaders, educators, elementary and college-level administrators from across the country took part in these sessions with the unified mission to discover ways to improve urban education in students' lives.
We try to basically cover K through 8 issues. We cover college, faculty issues. We cover administrative issues. And then we covered the classroom teacher. We wanted to just, what is it that can make that classroom teacher better?
In this session, the topic is the Black Male Crisis, exploration of the correlation between educational attainment and the imprisonment of African American men.
You have the influx of the crack laws and putting people in prison for 20 years for, minor substance control, things of that nature. It did something very dramatic to the African American community, and especially African American males. And I hypothesize, if you look into when these policies were implemented, and you look at the educational attainment of Black males, you're going to see a significant decrease in attainment. And by attainment, I mean high school graduation, entering college, entering into the workforce.
Kimberly Casey is the director for Public Policy Institute, Midwest Center for Civic Engagement, where she is responsible for a broad spectrum of collaborative efforts aimed at increasing the public's capacity to work together on common problems.
Today's workshop was about closing the academic achievement gap and looking at 3 various approaches to being able to solve that gap. I think it's important to the people that attended here today so that they can begin to look at their own community and how the gap is impacting their children. In terms of society, I think it's important because in order for our students across the country to remain competitive, we need to be able to bring all our children up to a certain level or a certain standard, because they're not just competing with each other, they're competing globally.
The conference shone a spotlight on the particular needs of the students in today's Center City classrooms, students of diverse backgrounds challenged by economic, social, and political circumstances. They are students who learn best when educators use approaches to teaching that make sense in the urban classroom and in the community beyond.
Wow, I got so much, but what stuck out the most is how they're trying to put together this new age of how to educate students. It's 21st century education to move forward on how to work with children on not just direct instruction, but accommodations and modifications. Working with groups, helping students learn to work with each other and critically think about problems, not just, okay, this is how you do it, now do it for yourself. We want to challenge the students to think about the questions that we ask them in the classroom, and I think that is what stuck out to me the most.
There was one particular session I attended on using pop music in the classroom, and it had some good ideas of how to teach even other subjects such as history and English by using pop music. And as a classical musician, that's an area that I feel I can use to relate to kids with understanding popular music, where if I try to teach through classical music, that's not something that they would all necessarily understand. So when I can relate things back to popular music and 21st century style of music, that's something they can understand, and I can apply it to any subject.
The best things I learned just today in the morning session was how to be successful as an educating teacher. And the 4 things you need to know is to be successful is to you have to be driven, you have to be have knowledge, and have a strategy to be successful as an educating teacher. We
have an advisory board, and our advisory board has 16 people on it from various universities, various school districts, from the whole urban spectrum. And the first thing they say is, Central State, please don't stop doing this. We are willing to write a letter. We will support with our finances, which they do because they come. We will support you in every way we can. Don't stop. And I think that don't stop was supported today. For example, one huge university in the past may have sent 1 person. This university sent 18 faculty people, one of the largest universities in the state. And so we're saying, and we're one of the smallest. Now, how is it that those two are working together? They're working together because that's what we need to be doing. That we certainly have something that we can offer that is different from maybe anything that they're doing, as large as they are. And they certainly see us now as deliverers of service that can make a difference for their students and make a difference for themselves.
Join Central State University and Cedarville University as they present Passion, Power, Performance Now, the Institute of Urban Education's 10th Annual National Urban Education Conference, January 23, 2013 at Cedarville University. To learn more and to register, visit cedarville.edu.